Welcome to Making the Grade. I'm Dave Dicke, and I'm joined today by Superintendent Rich Dahman, and it's nice to have you with us today.
Thank you, Dave. It's great to be here.
We've got a very important show today coming up in really just a few short weeks. Voters are going to be going to the polls and deciding on a referendum which will really shape the future of District 861.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to meet with you and to share information about the referendum.
So why did the school board decide to vote or decide to have this referendum?
Well, while we would love to have the opportunity to keep all of our small neighborhood schools open, our financial constraints make that extremely difficult unless we were to increase our operational referendum with some type of additional levy. There's a couple different pieces that play a part in that, and I'm going to at times be referring to my notes because with me coming in, as a lot of this process has taken place, I want to make sure that we're utilizing this time to get accurate information out there. So one of the pieces is our enrollment in our school district. Over the 20 years from the 96-97 school year to the 2016-17 school year, Winona Area Public Schools has lost right around 36% of our enrollment, from about 4,700 students to our current enrollment, which is right around 3,000 students in kindergarten through 12th grade. Because much of our funding from the state is based on our enrollment, the number of students that we have, that decrease in enrollment has created a shortfall in revenue as we move forward. We have, in addition to that declining enrollment, we have the largest amount of square feet per student of all the neighboring districts and Big 9 school districts and even comparable size school districts across the state of Minnesota. So as we look at those two pieces, the declining enrollment and the footprint of our facilities and our aging facilities, the school board has made that decision to move forward with the current bond referendum. In addition to that, we also have very significant deferred maintenance needs in most of our buildings across the school district. If we looked at all of our current school buildings, we have a little bit over $62 million in deferred maintenance needs. And that doesn't include any improvements to safety and security or improvements to educational space or any reduction in operational costs. So to address those concerns and to look at what we can do better as far as safety and security, having 21st century educational space, and update our facilities to address those deferred maintenance costs, the school board has put forward the motion to bring that to the voters on November 7th.
So tell us a little bit about the process which led the board to the decision for this referendum.
It has been a lengthy process. It's gone on for a few years studying our facilities here with Winona Area Public Schools. Back in the 2014-15 school year, the board began looking at a number of different facilities options and held public meetings to gather feedback. In the fall of 2015, Wold Architects were hired, and the school board approved a community survey. That survey had 3 different questions, but 66% of the respondents to that survey said that chose an option that required us to close some of our current schools. A community task force was convened in the fall of 2016, and Wold led that process to study the issue and to make recommendations to the board. And then this past spring, actually late winter, in December, the recommendation came to the board. The board spent time this past winter and spring investigating different options, looking at both the task force recommendation but also further study, and decided to in part follow the task force recommendation by looking to close some of our schools, but did make some changes to which schools would be closed. So that's some of the background on the study and the information that people have looked at. We have a binder that's about this thick with all the different studies and information on all of our different schools that went into that.
Wow. So with that all being said, can you give us a little overview about then what is included in this bond referendum?
Sure. There's a few different parts to it. Sometimes a school district might pass a referendum that's just to build a new building, whereas this referendum has a lot of different parts. So at Goodview Elementary School, there would be some renovations and addition to the school and some deferred maintenance at Goodview. At Washington Kosciuszko, there also would be some renovations and additions and deferred maintenance taking place there. There's money in the referendum to purchase land from the landowners who live next to Washington Kosciuszko if there can be an agreement that's reached between the school district and those landowners. At this time, the school district hasn't indicated any interest in using eminent domain to take over those properties. It isn't something that they consider to be on their to-do list. So back in the spring of 2017, we initiated conversation with 4 homeowners and a business owner in that area to gauge their interest in, if the referendum were to pass, would they be interested in selling their property to the school district. And we received favorable responses from a couple of those property owners, and others that said they'd kind of take a wait and see attitude, and one person that said that they likely would not be interested in that.
So how long is this bond going to be for, and what's the value of it going to be?
You know, that's a great question, and I did have, there are a couple of other parts to the referendum that I didn't get to, so if I can add
Sure.
those, and then we'll come back to that question. The referendum isn't just around Goodview and Washington Kosciuszko. Those are the 2 largest parts of the referendum. But there also is a repair and replacement of the roof at Rolling Stone School, and then deferred maintenance projects at the middle school, the ALC, and the high school, including a new gymnasium at the ALC and at the high school, and fairly significant renovations at the high school to add learning space, or I guess convert learning space would be a better word, to make more of the school more in line with the Coulter Wing portion of the school in the math and science area. So that's the extent then of the referendum. And then you asked about, do you want to ask that again?
Yeah, what is the value of the bond? How much money is that going to be? And then how long will that term be for that bond?
Yeah, the bond sale would bring in a total of approximately $82.4 million for all the different projects that I just described. It would be paid back over a period of 25 years. The total cost over those 25 years is estimated with both interest and principal payments to be about $145 million. That's an estimate because it would be very much dependent upon what the interest rate is when those bonds are sold. It's similar in many ways to a home mortgage. The school district could have made a proposal to pay for the entire $82.4 million in one lump sum, but it would put an extremely strong one-year impact on our taxpayers. So paying for it over time and then planning those projects with other projects that go off the tax rolls. What we really try to do is limit a roller coaster effect for the taxpayers, where there's either significant drops or significant increases in certain years with the property tax. So this one, if it does pass this fall, the timing of that bond would correspond with the referendum from the middle school being built falling off the tax rolls, which would help limit the impact on the local taxpayers.
If you could, explain to us a little bit the relationship, capacity and the relationship to enrollment. Now, how that works in this.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, our enrollment has declined significantly over the years with about a 36% decrease over a 20-year period. And I even was visiting with some people this weekend who said that at one point the school district had over 6,000 students in K-12, where we're right around 3,000 students right now. That plays a big part because while we have made some changes to our facilities over the years, as mentioned in that in-depth study with comparable districts, our square foot per student ratio is significantly larger than any other district in the area, and much, much larger than the average in schools. The reason that plays a part for us, and a significant part for us moving forward, is that especially as our buildings are aging, they become more and more expensive to maintain. So getting our facilities footprint, the number of square feet that we have district-wide in our facilities, more in line with our current enrollment would allow us to not spend as much money on facilities and be able to spend that money on student programming.
You're watching Making the Grade here on HBC. We're talking today with Superintendent Richard Dahman, and we're talking about the upcoming referendum. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and when we come back, we'll discuss the referendum in more detail here on Making the Grade.
Good luck with the family. I'm home.
Oh, hi.
Where is everyone?
They're still here. I just gave everyone the HBC Wi-Fi password.
Stream like a hero. Only HBC has the fastest in-home Wi-Fi, where multiple users can download and upload, share files, and stream audio and video simultaneously.
NASCAR racing is about a whole lot more than just cars going around a track. It's about people who drive, people who engineer, people who plan, people who know how to put it all together. Meet the people who make the cars go round every week on Raceline. Watch Raceline here every week.
And now the new wrinkle, oh look at this prancing from Lady Poodle, which goes into a conga line. Amazing, amazing. And now the new wrinkle, oh look at this prancing from Lady Poodle, which goes into a conga line.
Play, pause, rewind. Record now and watch on your schedule. Never miss out on your favorite shows. Free DVR service and equipment is included in all GigaWorld packages.
What's a Southern girl? It's waking up before the sun rises. It's loving the simple things in life like the dirt roads that lead you home. It's working hard to get what you want. It's hanging your own stands, breaking your own ground, and strategizing every little move for that one moment when everything you've worked for is standing right in front of you. Even if I fail a million times, I keep pushing myself till I'm exhausted, filthy, and about to give up. And that's when the adrenaline hits.
Watch The Tom Sawyer Show on HBC TV 25. Brought to you by Wellington's Pub and Grill. WSU head football coach Tom Sawyer and HBC's Justin Barrientos will take an inside look at the WSU football program as they talk about this year's season. Watch The Tom Sawyer Show Wednesday through Friday at 5 p.m. and right before the Warrior home games on HBC TV 25. The Tom Sawyer Show is brought to you by Wellington's Pub and Grill. Ever wish you could just swing by the local office to pay your bill quickly rather than calling a toll-free number and speaking to a machine? When you join the HBC family, you get that and so much more with local office locations and customer care. Whether you have general questions or would like to upgrade your services, HBC is here in your community, providing an unrivaled personalized experience. Switching is easy and installation is free, and we're so sure you'll love HBC, we offer a 30-day guarantee. Visit hbci.com to learn more or call 888-474-9995 to experience the HBC difference.
Welcome back to Making the Grade. I'm Dave Dicke, and today we are talking with Richard Dahman, the Superintendent of Winona Area Public Schools. And today we are bringing you some more information about the upcoming referendum. And again, Mr. Dahman, it's nice to have you with us today.
Thank you, Dave. It's great to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about savings, which is really what this in the end is what the referendum is all about. The district has had to make some very deep cuts in recent years, and I think it's hoped that by making some of these changes, some of those deeper cuts can be alleviated in the future.
Yes, that's exactly right. One of the important pieces of the referendum is that that with the addition to 2 of the elementary schools, we would be closing then 2 elementary schools. And there is a fairly significant operational savings tied into that. We mentioned earlier our facilities footprint, and by decreasing that footprint, we'd be saving in a couple different ways. We're anticipating about $1.14 million per year in operational cost savings once the referendum items are fully in place. And that $1.14 million is split into 2 parts. One piece of that is around the actual facilities costs. We're anticipating about $210,000 per year in savings by having a smaller footprint, and that's around operational costs for those facilities, utility costs, electrical costs, staffing costs for custodial and maintenance staff. And that's based on our average cost per square foot district-wide. Currently we have a cost of about $2.63 per square foot district-wide. So the savings by having fewer square feet to heat and to maintain, we're anticipating about $210,000 a year in savings. The more significant piece is around staffing savings, and we're anticipating about $930,000 per year in staffing savings, again, once that transition plan would be completely in place if the referendum were to pass. That savings comes into play because with our large number of facilities right now, that leads to inefficient class sizes when you have a larger number of buildings. And we're looking at being able to save on both administration, clerical and support staff, and teacher costs to get to that point of about $930,000 per year. The transition plan would take place over the course of 3 years because we are adding on to buildings and closing buildings. We would have to do that in stages. So those entire costs, I want to be clear, those entire costs wouldn't come into play until that entire transition has taken place. Once the transition has taken place, though, those staffing costs would be enacted per year, and the facilities costs wouldn't be completely enacted until the school district no longer owned and operated those buildings that are closed.
Recently, the state legislature passed the ag land tax credit. What does that mean for the District 861 bond referendum?
You're exactly right, Dave. That happened just this spring, and it's in place now for any school district bond building referendums moving forward. It is a 40% tax credit for agricultural land. The legislature's feeling was that that relationship between the proportion of land that's taxed for residential, commercial, and agriculture land had been getting a little bit out of whack against people that own agricultural property. So a 40% tax credit for people that own ag land would be part of this referendum. We do on our website have a tax impact calculator, and I think the best way for individual property owners, no matter which of those categories they fall into, the best way for them to get accurate information about what their specific property tax impact would be to go to our website and utilize that tax impact calculator, where people can enter their exact type of property and the value of the property and find out what effect that would have on them. Just in a general sense, for residential property, a $150,000 value residence would have a tax impact of about $12.50 per month.
Now, let's say that everything goes smoothly, the bond referendum passes, and everything will be A-OK here going on in the foreseeable future. But then what happens if the referendum were to fail, then what is the situation of the district?
You know, that's a question that we've gotten a few times at our information sessions so far. And it's a piece of that is difficult to answer because the specific decisions will need to be made by the school board. Administration will be putting together some proposals. But I guess overall, we would need to address our operational and facilities costs. I mentioned earlier that our expenditures have exceeded our revenue for a number of years, and we've made some budget cuts for this current fiscal year to try to get that more in line. We'll be working on starting the budget cut process for next fiscal year here in late October. And I want to be upfront with people that if the referendum doesn't pass, we continue to have inefficiencies in our system because of the large number of schools. That's going to continue to create budget shortfalls and will need to be addressed by making what could potentially be fairly significant budget cuts and everything that goes with those potential budget cuts, including larger class sizes, a potential decrease in the types of programs that we're able to offer for students. The inefficiencies don't go away if the referendum doesn't pass. The deferred maintenance costs also do not go away. We have right now $68 million in deferred maintenance projects for all of our different school buildings. Some of those are extremely dire and would need to be addressed in some way, and there isn't funding available to do that unless some type of referendum does pass. So another option for the school board would be to bring another vote to the voters sometime in the future. The earliest that could potentially be done would be this coming spring. So it would be up to the school board whether they decide to pursue that avenue or not.
Now, we were talking during the break a little bit about a question that comes up quite frequently is why hasn't the Jefferson campus been put into play, and closing Jefferson to allow people doesn't make sense. Can you explain that a little bit for us?
Yes, and I'm glad that you asked that because that is a question that we've heard from people, both at our meetings or people sending us emails or even in articles in the newspaper that's come out. And in my time here, I've looked at all of the different plans that the school board, administration, the facilities task force have looked at. And I don't see, and I haven't heard from anyone who believes that there's a perfect plan, that there's a plan. And I think if there was a perfect plan, it probably would be something that would have been in place a few years ago, to tell you the truth. I would agree that the plan that's been approved by the school board to take to the voters has some advantages and disadvantages, as do other plans. You mentioned Jefferson School, and I think the advantage to keeping Jefferson School open is that it is one of our largest schools. It's on one of our largest facilities. It shares that space, that green space, with our ALC, and Paul Giel Field is located nearby there, so it is a nice facility. It does, I guess, one of the downsides with Jefferson, and part of what the school board weighed as they were looking at different options, are mainly two things. One is that the building at Jefferson has a very, very significant deferred maintenance needs, almost $11 million in deferred maintenance needs in a building that is over 80 years old. So part of it was, does the school district want to ask the taxpayers to sink that considerable amount of money into a school building that's at that age? The other was, if Jefferson and Goodview are the two buildings that remain open, in a school district that's 40 miles long from end to end, having our two main elementary schools located within 2 miles of each other leaves a significant part of the school district with a more difficult time accessing those schools. So the school district weighed those different things against other available options, made a decision to move forward with the plan that adds on to Goodview and WK, and we'll see what the voters think.
Okay. Now, the rubber hits the road on November 7th. Where can people cast their ballots?
We have a number of different polling places. This vote is the only item on the election for November 7th. With that in mind, the school district is bearing the entire cost of the vote coming up. So the school board made a decision to limit, in a way, the number of polling places available to reduce the cost. There are 5 different polling places available. They are at Goodview, Central, Rolling Stone, Winona Middle School, and Winona Senior High School. Those are the places that will be open on November 7th for voting. Because we want to make voting as easy as possible for people, we do also have absentee ballots available, and that actually started this past Friday. There was a gentleman in at 7:30 who was the first person that voted through an absentee ballot. People can stop in at the district office during our regular business hours to vote anytime, Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 4:30 between now and the day before the vote. And people can also vote via absentee ballot by mail. And if they call our district office, we can give them information on how to vote via mail. We want to make sure that the ability to vote is available in as easy a manner as possible for people.
All right, we got about 30 seconds left, so real quickly, how can people learn more about the referendum?
We have a couple open information sessions, and by open to anyone in the public, the League of Women Voters are sponsoring a session on October 23rd at the City Hall. The school district is sponsoring a session on October 24th at the middle school. Anyone in the community that wants to can attend those. But we also have a wealth of information available on our website. If people go to winonaschools.org, there's a referendum 2017 link that includes frequently asked questions, information about how, where, and when to vote, the tax impact, a sample ballot, and how to get more information. We also are doing a large number of sessions with community groups, whether it's the Rotary, the Chamber of Commerce, PTAs in different school buildings. And a number of people have contacted me directly. My contact information is available on our website, and I would love to take the time to meet with anyone if they have concerns or questions or just want more information about the upcoming referendum, because it's vitally important for us that we have an informed electorate coming into the election.
All right, we are out of time. Richard Dahman, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Dave. I really appreciate it.
All right, and we thank you for joining us for Making the Grade.